Welcome to the Life of KG, your ultimate destination for all things motivation and business insights. Join me, Katie Godfrey, serial entrepreneur and the brains behind the KG brand. Along the way, we'll welcome inspiring guests and share invaluable business tips to fuel your growth journey. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. With that said, let's dive into the world of success together. Hey everyone, welcome back to Life of KG. Now, I really need a favour from all of my listeners. I've been working on my book, as most of you know, and it's coming out in April, which I am so excited about, but also I'm so bloody nervous. I'm like, oh my God, imagine if I don't sell one book. That'd be humiliating. So I need you guys to sign up for my waitlist. Please, please, please. This is the only thing I'll literally ask from you. So if you go on the show notes, there will be the link at the top and you can just pop in your details and then you'll be on the wait list. So you can help me out on the day of launch. I'd be really, really grateful. Today on the show, I have my good friend Shaz. Welcome, Shaz.
Hello, thank you.
I am so glad that you're here. So Shaz does all things. Literally everything. What you need help with. She's like, I do that. I'm like, oh, okay, amazing. So websites, funnels, tech, marketing, socials, literally everything. She's the queen of the queens. So I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so honoured to be here and thank you so much for having me on here. Like I've been listening to your podcast for such a while and like you have so many incredible people that like come on the podcast. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I've been so lucky to have so many amazing guests and it just gets better and better and better. So yeah, thanks for your time. So let's do an intro, like who you are, what you do.
Yeah, okay, amazing. So my name is Shaz and I am the owner of Sleek Marketing, which is a digital marketing agency. And we focus mainly on organic marketing. So we help from everything from websites, SEO, which is showing up number one on Google, email marketing, social media. We help with launches. So yeah, a little bit of everything, but all organic focused.
So if there's anything you're stuck in and you don't know who to do it, just contact Shaz. I'm sure that she'll do something. I love it.
Yeah.
So I always like to start with childhood with a lot of our guests, especially if they have a bit of a backstory, which I know you do.
Yeah.
So tell me about your childhood growing up and what was that like?
Yeah, okay. How far back are we going?
I mean, we've got a whole hour to fill if you really want. So.
Love that. So yeah, so looking back on my childhood, I think I never really realised, and I don't know about you, but like it was quite chaotic when I explained it to some people and they're like, oh, okay, like a lot was going on. So my dad left me when I was 2. So I feel like that was quite a big impact because that meant that my mum was moving around. So I've actually lived in different countries.
Wow.
So I was born obviously in England. And then when my dad left us when I was 2, he actually left my mum in a lot of trouble. So she didn't have an income and she was really reliant on him. And one day he just disappeared and basically the house was going to get repossessed.
Oh my God.
So I feel like that's something that sort of stuck with me without realising until I got older because I'm like, right, I don't want to rely on someone for money because I've seen how that impacted my mum. So I lived in Spain for a little bit and then I moved to Belgium and that's where she met my stepdad. And then we moved back to England. So I think I've lived in like 15 different houses across the years. I'm like, yeah, I'm 31 and I've lived in like 15 different places, probably more from what I've counted. So my childhood growing up was very chaotic. We always moved around a lot. And then, yeah, going into school was an interesting one because I hate the phrase, but I was actually naturally like intelligent, but I didn't like school. So
Did you have to change different schools as you was moving around?
Yeah.
Or was that more when you was younger?
Yeah, I went to an international school. So I was the only one that could speak English at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was a challenge. So yeah, they couldn't speak. They were all speaking like Dutch. So I had to learn like Flemish. And try and interact that way. And then obviously when I went to Spain, apparently I went to Spanish nursery. Apparently I could speak fluent Catalan. Don't know anything about Spanish.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you can't now?
No,
You've lost
I can't
it.
now.
Yeah,
I've lost it. And yeah, then my family, so my mum's Arabic, so I'm half Arabic. So I can't speak Arabic, but I can understand it. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you was a bit of, I mean, I can relate to moving a lot, not because my family, more so my adult life. Like I'm clearly not settled like on where I am. I think me and Lola alone have moved, I think it's 6 times in 9 years.
Yeah.
And I've moved loads of times before her as well. So like the unsettledness.
But I thought that was normal. So like so my partner now, he's lived in the same house all his life. And I was like, oh really? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I can't relate to that.
Yeah.
So like Christmases as well, like I'd be in different, I never had like a home where it was like Christmas in one place. It was here, there and everywhere. Like I never really had that. So I think the only thing that was really consistent for me was my nan. So my nan was kind of like my mum in some sense. I spent a lot of time with my nan because my mum was very busy, like, you know, trying to rebuild herself and things like that. So my nan was really sort of like my mum, and my nan's home was like the stability. But again, she lived in a different country until she moved to England later on. So I was really used to like traveling a lot. Like we used to also go, when my mum met my stepdad, we used to always travel to Belgium for his family as well. So like every 2 weeks we'd be driving to Belgium, and that was like just normal. Like I was just never in one place.
Now as like an adult, and obviously you have children now, do you feel that you want to be like in that stability with them and not move, or have you now kind of got that in you where you like want to travel and do all the things?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think definitely I would love to have that like forever home, but I also feel like it's shaped me. So I work quite well, and like obviously with the job that I do, I can work anywhere I want, which is really good. And I love that. So yeah, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I would love to just have one place. And other times like, no, I want to travel and go to different places. So yeah, I've got 3 kids. So my 2 girls are with previous, they've got a different dad. But when I had them really young, so I was 19 when I had my first.
Wow.
Yeah. And I moved out as well at 19. And I moved a lot with them, bless them. So yeah, they've moved different houses with me as well. So they've not had like one home to stay in.
Yeah, yeah. And so you was intelligent in school, but you didn't like school.
No.
Obviously, you've gone and had babies young. So what kind of happened there, like work-wise? Was you working alongside the children?
Yeah, so sort of like looking back at school. So I was told I was going to fail. I wasn't going to, you know, get this or that or anything like that because of the way I never used to study. My attendance was really low and I didn't really like the teachers. So they said, you know, I wasn't even going to get a job in Tesco's or something like that. That's
oh my God.
Yeah, they were so savage.
Brutal.
Yeah, really, really rude. And my mum like came out of like the parents' evening. She was like almost crying, being like, oh my God, like what's going to happen and all this stuff. And I was just like, it's going to be fine. I was like, it was really weird. I always said I was going to always have my own business. Don't know what it was, but I always said I was going to have my own business and I was going to figure it out. And everyone just sort of looks at me being like, really? Like, I can't really see that happening because it's not like how it is now. Like everyone, like I feel like, you know, how everything is right now, it's all very like motivational and you've got the podcasts and stuff like that. But back then that was very like sort of alien.
More of a closed box, wasn't it? There wasn't all the learning, maybe YouTube, but there wasn't enough of it, or a lot of people's family members weren't really into it.
No, my family were like, they wanted me to go to uni. So they were like, you've got such wasted potential. Like they sort of said I was lazy in some sense because I wouldn't sit there over the summer holidays and study. I would basically wait for everything to build up. And then I was like, right, I'm going to study the night before. And then I would do well on the exams. And everyone was like, how do you do it? And I was like, I just had photographic memory. I would like close my eyes and I would just see the book. And then
really?
Yeah, it was so weird.
Oh
so
my gosh.
weird. So yeah, that's really, really funny that they were like that. But yeah, they were like, you need to go to uni. My mum wanted me to be a solicitor. That was her dream. And she pushed it on me. Like I remember being 7 years old and people would say, what do you want to be when you're older? And I would say I would want to be a solicitor, which I think is really odd for a 7-year-old to say. But it's because my mum sort of ingrained it in me. You need to go to uni. If you don't go to uni, like you're like a failure, this and this. Whereas now she's got a completely different outlook, but I feel like the times have changed. But back then it was kind of like, if you don't go to uni, and like with the Arab culture, they're very like study and go this way and that sort of stuff.
And I guess if you're looking at it on the other hand, I mean, it might be completely wrong, but for your mum to obviously, dad left, she had to restart again, the stability wasn't there.
Yeah.
But she's had her little girl and she's wanting you to be as stable as possible, right?
Yeah.
So that to her mostly was like, if you're a solicitor, like everything's going to be all good.
Yeah,
Bless her.
literally. I know, bless her. So so that was completely different. And I did actually go to uni.
Did you?
For 2 weeks. I did Freshers Week.
I was like, wow, I didn't know you went to uni.
Yeah, so my A-levels, I actually I got straight A's in my A-levels. Don't know how, because I didn't bother turning up. But I got straight A's in my A-levels. And I think some people got really annoyed with me because they were like, you were never here. Like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just did it. But yeah, and then so they were like, well, you need to go to uni. And I was like, don't really want to. But anyway, they made me apply. And then I did 2 weeks. And then I left, but I didn't tell my family that I left.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I actually was living somewhere else. They didn't know that I'd
Really?
left. Yeah. They thought I did, like, and then it was like the first time, and I was like, I don't know how much I can pretend that I'm not actually at uni. And then I fell pregnant shortly after that. So yeah,
Oh my
that was
gosh.
like a big,
Was it?
yeah.
So what did you go into work-wise then before you started the business? Because obviously you've got a little one.
Yeah. So at the time I was on benefits because obviously 19, not living at home, you know, what am I going to do? So just before I was doing recruitment, so I was working in recruitment for a little bit. So that's where I got the sales background from. Recruitment is cutthroat, by the way, like so savage. It really sort of toughened me up, especially being young. And then I got an opportunity. My mum was working for a company at the time where it was all like working from home, which now sounds like normal. But back then that was like, oh, never heard of this, working from home as a company. So it was a startup and they had a customer service opportunity come up. And I think it was like 21.5 grand at the time, which I thought was like, wow, this is, you know, really, really good money, especially for 19 and like no sales background. And I worked in Primark before that. So my CV wasn't, you know, all of that. And my mum was like, oh, why don't you apply for it? And, you know, we'll put in a good word and all this sort of stuff. So I applied for it. Now, the manager at the time, it was between me and someone else, which was his friend. But because everyone put such in a good word for me, because they knew my mum, and my mum was like, she needs the money, like, you know, please help her and give her this opportunity. He goes, right, well, we'll give you the job, but because you're young and female, we're going to take some of the money off, which is so illegal.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I took the role, even though it was exactly the same job and I would be like capable in doing it. They actually knocked some of the salary off because of my age.
Wow.
Yeah, which you'd get in a lot of trouble for.
So like, is this when you was thinking of starting a business because of the salary?
Yeah. So I worked in that job for a little bit. And basically I used to do blogging. Do you remember mum blogging and things like that? So I did a bit of mummy blogging and I started to dip into building websites, like all self-taught stuff. And then this customer service job at the time, they had no marketing. So I said, oh, I can help with social media, like, and all that. So it was all self-taught. I ended up going on a course from the Chartered Institution of Marketing. They put me on it for digital marketing. And basically I'd done so much, I was so obsessed with it that I'd done so much like learning, you know, trying this out, my stepdad as well, he had his own web development company. So he used to teach me coding. Like I really sort of got into all of that. Yeah, with all of that. But it was also my drive. So I also remember at the time that the job didn't make sense for me to actually work. So I paid for a nanny at the time. So all my salary basically went on childcare. So a lot of people and my friends at the time were like, well, you're better off just staying on benefits. Like, why are you working when you're just going to be left with like couple £100 each month, like it's all going. But the one thing my mum said was, put in the work now, because it will help you in the future. And I'm so glad I did that. So although it didn't make sense, it does now longer term, because that's where I got the experience from. I left that job eventually, and I got offered a really good opportunity in a corporate job for like, I think it was like 50 grand at the time. So I was like, wow, this is insane. But that was like so hard. Corporate is just like not nice at all.
Not for me.
And I had two, and then that's when I had my second. So the girls are 18 months apart. I was then a single mum as well. So I basically accumulated a lot of debt. So I was in about 20 grand debt, single mum. My house was about to get repossessed, and I was going to this corporate job, and some of it involved going to London. And I remember how I was literally so burnt out and stressed. I would drop the kids off to morning club, run to the train station, miss the train, or hope that it was going to get delayed. And then I'll turn up, and they weren't flexible at all. So despite them knowing my situation, they weren't flexible. And I'd be like, sometimes even 10 minutes late. And like my old boss at the time would give me an absolute grilling for it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I worked there, and then basically I then moved to a different job, and they were really, really nice. Like they were like a creative sort of agency and stuff. So they were amazing, lovely team. But then I met my partner, had our child together. So that's my third now. And I was on maternity leave, and I was thinking, I don't want to go back, even though they're so lovely. They were such a lovely company, like family business. I was thinking, no, like Shaz, you want to like work for yourself and have your own agency. Like that's always been in the back of my mind. And basically, long story short, I came across a course, and it was advertised online saying like how to become a like social media manager and like run your own thing and earn 5K months. And I was like, oh, okay. And so like I inquired about it, and the course was, I don't know, I think it was like 2.5 grand, something like that. But they were offering payment plans. Now, at this point, I'm on maternity leave and I'm earning like £600, like statutory. Yeah. And all this debt. I've got no savings, and my partner, he's such a hard worker, but like his income's really low.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like, he's so supportive with everything. Like, honestly, I'm so lucky to have him. But he was like, kind of need you to start earning some money as well to help, like with the 3 kids. So I took a gamble. I never invested in myself, and like was never into this coaching space or anything like that. And the payment plan was something like £200 a month. So I was like, right, I'm going to be left with 400 quid.
I mean, £200 a month's a lot, right? When you don't have the money.
Yeah. And you don't have that sort of like vision of where it could go. Like I didn't have that belief. I didn't know anyone that did this. Like, you know, no one did this around where I was. So I was a bit like, not sure. But I took a gamble, and I literally went ahead and invested. And then within 5 months, I was earning 5K months, and I never returned back to that job.
Wow. So that was literally the story of you opening up your business.
Yeah, opening up my business is the best decision that I ever made, and then the rest was history. And you know, everything's just grown and grown since then, which is insane.
It's so good. Well done. Like many people could have gone, or majority of people would have gone the complete other way, right? Either stayed on benefits because it was the easy option, or just carried on going into jobs that they just were completely unhappy with.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you like investing this money, because I hear all the time, obviously as a coach, you obviously help so many businesses and they need to buy into your services too. Mm-hmm. And the biggest block and thing they come up with is literally, I don't have the money, I can't afford it. And as much as I always get that completely, like we're all in different situations, money isn't always spare. No. But you still took the risk to somehow figure that out, pay that every single month. Like, how did that feel? Yeah. So I remember like I was like sitting down when I was doing it, and I made the payment, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe this. Like I didn't tell anyone apart from my partner. And he was so supportive. He's very like, he doesn't care. Like he's just like, just go for it, you know, and really I'm so grateful to have him. But I didn't mention it to any family, any friends, nothing like that. Because I feel like you'll get
negativity and like be like, oh, you can't do that. 200 something pounds. Are you sure? Are you sure it's not a scam? And all that sort of stuff. So for me, I just told him because I knew that he would be supportive, and he's just like, yeah, do it. But I really feel like it's self-belief as well. So it's self-belief and trust and just being like, I've got to make this work. Like, that's what it is. I do a lot of like, I support my clients with like selling in the DMs, and we do like a lot of lead gen and stuff. So that is a big objection that we have to handle when we are helping, you know, our clients with like, you know, selling their courses and programs, the whole money thing. But it's really sort of like putting it into perspective as like £200 these days as well. It's like, I feel like that's a night out.
Yeah. I mean,
and a meal.
Now, yeah, a meal.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, looking at like what you're spending as well. So I would have spent, you know, £200 in Primark or something like that. So actually, why wouldn't I spend that in myself? But yeah, I think about what really drove me to invest when I had £600, what made sense. I think I was just a bit delusional as well. I feel like you just need to be a little bit like Delulu and just go for it and think, can we swear on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it.
Every guest says that to me.
I was like, oh no, we're going to have to edit this out. But yeah, it was literally just like, fuck it energy. And like, let's just go for it. Like, I didn't want to go back. And also with my son, with the girls, I returned to work. So I got offered that job when Layla was 5 months old. My eldest was 5 months old. And then with my second, I had to go back when she was 2 months old because of money, like literally had to go back.
Yeah.
There was no other option. So I thought, I want to be with him. Like, I don't like, you know, I don't want to repeat that again. Like, there is other ways. And I thought, I need to change this because like I was constantly, you know, missing things at school and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't want this to continue like this. And I knew the girls were getting older and they were going to have more stuff and I was going to miss out on so much. And I just hated being controlled by someone else. And I was just like, something's going to have to change.
Yeah.
And that opportunity came along and I'm so glad that I did that. So now every time I invest, I'm not scared to invest in myself, which I'm sure you're the same as well.
Yeah.
And I think when I speak to people when they're unsure, a lot of the time it's about them not taking action.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I just recorded a podcast and it did come to a conversation of when you invest in something and then people go, oh, it didn't work. Like, what's the reason it actually didn't work? Because even if you invest in something that isn't amazing, there's still stuff that you would have learned, I hope. Obviously, there is bad programs out there and different things you can invest in. Of course there is. But if you do your research, your due diligence, you invest in the right things, there's always something you're going to learn and you can take action on. But it does come down to you haven't put the work in, you haven't shown up to calls, like you haven't, or you've, you know, pushed against what that other person's saying because you think you know best.
Yeah, I see that
all of that.
Yeah, I see that all the time as well, where they'll invest, but then they won't listen to the advice and they won't test. So the clients that I love working with, so the types of clients I work with is all service providers. A lot of them are industry experts, coaches, training academies. The ones that get the results are willing to try and test new things. Like I'll, you know, tell them a strategy, an idea, or like it could be like a piece of like, you know, content I want them to film. And they're like, yeah, let's go for it. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then we can still learn from it. Like there's no such thing as like a bad, you know, piece of content, because you can always learn from it, because then that teaches you, right, well, they didn't like that, my audience or whatever. It's the ones that, they're not willing to change, and then they wonder why they're still in the same situation because they're not taking the advice. Yeah,
definitely. And you're always going to be in the same situation if you're not doing anything new, right? You're just going to be in the same position.
Yeah.
But yeah, we see this all the time as well. And like, even if something fails, like you said, if it fails or it doesn't pull off as much as it wanted, it's like, okay, I've done this time. Well, how can I tweak that then next time for it to make an impact? Or is there certain things that I maybe done but I could have done better? Like there's always stuff to learn from.
Yeah. And I also feel like life gets busy as well. So I feel like that's another element when people are scared to invest. They're like, oh, well, I've got, you know, I mean, like things like Christmas is coming up and like the new year and like, oh, I've got, you know, this and that. And it's like, yeah, but I feel like for me, I think it maybe goes back to my childhood. I'm used to it being chaotic. So I feel like life is always chaotic. Like it was madness for me to get here this morning. If I explained to you, like with all the 3 kids and a partner and all this sort of stuff, but I'm used to chaos. So I'm sort of like, well, life's always busy. Life's always chaotic. There's never going to be a moment where it's like not chaotic. So you need to fit it in. Otherwise it's not going to change.
That's such a good point. Yeah. Like you do always hear like, oh, I'm just so busy at the moment. I'm like, tell me when you're not busy. But I even say this about women when they go, oh, I'm going to plan for a baby. But right now is not the right time. Like there's never going to be a right time to plan for a baby. But when it happens, you just deal with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing I get, because you mentioned about Christmas, when people say, oh, I don't know, like you've got all the outgoings for Christmas or there's this and this coming up. I'm like, but hold on, that's their personal expense.
Yeah.
Like the business expenses and the personal need to be so completely different. And people don't see that at all. And I'm like, that baffles me because I'm like, what's going on in your personal life shouldn't really conflict with the business. That's 2 separate things.
Yeah, definitely. But I also see, so like, let's say if they say about Christmas and they've got a lot of outgoings personally, I'm like, well, that's the reason why you need to make more money. So invest now because you're actually going to make more money and then that's going to help you if you pay yourself more dividends or however it works. Do you know what I mean? But like you said, they are 2 separate things. But actually, or if you're like a, sole trader or whatever, but it's more of a reason you need to earn money. Like I want my daughter to go to private school next year, which is crazy because I'm like, I've never been big on school, but she's really academic, bless her. Like she loves all of that. She's like a little geek, like, she loves it all.
I love that.
She's so good and so motivated and, all of that. And so I'm like, right, well, I need to make more money now. Like I need, it's not cheap.
No, it's not. It's not, definitely not. But that's so good. Like, but it's true. And I think until you do and you make them moves, you don't really see how important it is. So from people listening might be like, oh, it's just a sales pitch. And I'm like, it's until you do it and see the results and you implement things.
Yeah.
Like, then you'll realise, like my coaching company, honestly, it's gone, I think it was like 150% more like grown in the last couple of years. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like that's insane.
Incredible.
When I'd done the figures, I was like, that's absolutely nuts. There's no way I was going to grow that much without investing. And everyone's had this story before, but I invested in coach, it was 20,000 for the year. Never invested like that before on myself because that's what it feels like it is. And I was like, I couldn't do it. I was like, there's no way I can do it. I remember wanting it so badly. That weekend, I was a right bitch to my family because all I was just gutted about is, why can't I invest this 20 grand? Like, why haven't I just got it there and then to be able to put down and really beat myself up about it? And then she released a payment plan and I was like, this is still nearly 2 grand a month.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to do that? That's my outgoings a month for my home.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to have to do it. And I didn't know how I was going to pay that 2 grand. I really honestly didn't. But I made sure I'd done everything she told me. I showed up to every single call.
Yeah.
Like, done all the things. Instead of watching Netflix, like, so I did that.
Oh my God, I don't even watch TV.
Me neither.
At all.
And I made every payment. And I'm so glad I've done that because that's what transformed the business.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to coaching, like for coaching, that was a side hustle for me like 7 odd years ago. I've been doing it so long now. Where I was like, oh, just a few grand extra would be like amazing a month. And then you do that and then it's scaled. And now coaching's taken over all of my businesses.
Yeah, it's like a snowball effect, isn't it? When you first make that investment. But when you always think about side hustles, this also made me think. So when obviously I had the £600 statutory maternity pay, and then obviously I was paying like 200 and something for the payment plan. And I know I was learning on the course, but obviously you don't straight away, get the money. But one thing that I would say throughout my whole upbringing is that, and sometimes I find it cheesy, but the hustle culture. So like my nan was very old school. Like she was Arabic. So she actually was brought up in like some, like literally like a desert. Like literally she was 1 of 10 and really like poor background, bless her. And she was like a proper grafter, like growing up. And the one thing she taught me, which now seems so common, but back then it wasn't, was to sell your items. So we used to do a lot of car boot sales growing up. So I would be there, I would be like 6 years old and I'd be like haggling with someone like, give me 50p for this. So I feel like I had that ingrained in me. And she used to go to charity shops and she was very good with gold. So although she wasn't great at speaking like English and language and all that, she was very good at knowing her gold. And she would go to charity shops and find things that were like real gold and then buy it for like £2 and then go and resell it for 200 quid.
Really?
So what I thought in my head was, I'm never going to not have money. I'll always find a way. So even though I didn't know from like a business point of view, at that stage, I was like, well, I'm going to sell this, this and this. Like I look at everything around the house. I'm like, well, even like that cabinet over there, I'm like, can sell that, 20 quid, done. Like I'd always find a way to make money. I would literally even sell like my shoes, like anything. And obviously now it's even better. You've got things like Etsy, Facebook Marketplace. There was none of that then.
Yeah.
So I used to do a lot of on eBay as well. So I was thinking that was my backup plan. If this wasn't going to
just sell everything,
I'll just start selling stuff. So yeah, I could always see everything from that point of view as well. But now it seems a lot more like normal people to do that. But yeah, back then it wasn't really a thing. So I was always thinking of ways to make money, and that was down to my nan sort of like teaching me that from a young age.
It's really all mindset, isn't it? Everything that we do, the success we do or have in our lives.
Yeah.
People that don't have the success or haven't quite got there yet, normally there's some type of mindset thing that they haven't shifted yet. Like it's really the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's not until you like experience it, but there's a lot of like people will see things and be like, oh, well, that's easy for them, like to do that. And it's like, no, you haven't seen like how long that's taken them to get there as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of like, you know, the failures along the way and the lessons that you've had to learn and stuff like that. Like you have to be persistent with it as well. It's so important.
Definitely. So loads of the listeners on the show, there's a real mix of women in business.
Yeah.
Lots are beauty clinics, training academies. I know you work loads of training academies. What would you say is like the main thing that you offer and help with when it comes to that industry?
Yeah, okay. So at the moment, I would say is marketing strategy and also launches. So particularly now, a lot of training academies are moving away from in person. They want to do more online because that's more scalable. So it's really helping them get in the leads and get in the inquiries. And then it's, you know, if there's any like tech builds or launches and things like that. So that's where I'm really helping a lot of my clients with is launching.
Okay, so lots of that then, like you said, comes down to like leads and lead generation.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything's a numbers game all the time. What are your top tips, would you say, to like go and get more leads?
Go and get more leads. Okay, so the first thing I would say is test everything organically. So the biggest thing I see is people thinking that they could run a bunch of like paid ads, put all their budget on paid ads and then wonder why it doesn't work. And they're like, why is it not working? But it's not a magic fix. You need to test things organically first. And if it doesn't work organically, guess what? Putting a load of money on it isn't going to make it better. All what's going to happen is more people will see that piece of content and not resonate with it. So that's my number one tip that I would say is always test things organically. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, the algorithm this, the algorithm that. Like, to not sound so savage, but it's not the algorithm that hates you. It's your messaging or whatever you're putting out there. Like your audience just
brutal.
Yeah.
Your content shit.
But it's true. So sometimes you have to also see it from that point of view. So I would say that also when it comes with like lead gen, I would say is actually planning and strategy with it. So with my clients, it's sort of like taking a step back, looking at their offer, making sure it makes sense, and like who's their ideal client is so important to know who your ideal client is, and actually spending time and actually revisiting that because they might have changed without you realizing as well.
Yeah. I actually love that you said about ideal client. Now, I find ideal client work really bloody boring. Really boring. I actually wrote a chapter in the book about ideal client, and I'm not going to lie, when I was writing this, I was like, mate, I could be writing about so many different things and I'm having to do a whole chapter on ideal client. but because it is so needed.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we want to talk to everyone, we'll talk to no one, right?
Absolutely. And like, even for myself, with my agency to begin with, so my background was technically corporate. And I was like, I've got no interest in working with tech or anything like that, even though I've got the background in it. So it's like niching down and knowing who your ideal client is. And it takes, you know, time. And then you might feel, you might find that they're not really the types of people you want to work with. So like with training academies, you know, beginners is hard to find who your ideal client is. With beginners is really tricky because it's like they could be anyone, and it's like leaning into that. But it's so important because then, you know, once you've nailed your ideal client, you need to then start thinking about, right, where are they going to be hanging out? Because there's so many marketing channels out there and people are like, oh, TikTok, oh, Instagram, this, that. But it's different for all my clients, especially training academies. Some work really well on Facebook. Some work really well on Instagram. Some work really well on Google. It all depends on the ideal client. And that's the same with clinics as well.
Yeah. So with lead gen, would you say that you need to go onto like all the different marketing channels and then just see what works? Or do you focus on like one first and then branch out?
So yeah, so it really, really depends on, like I said, like the ideal client and what works well for you. So the term is, I like to say, is like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So, you know, but you also need to focus on what works well. So if we take, for example, like your website and Google and organic, that's really good because, well, when it comes to marketing, the two important assets I would say is your email list and your website, because you 100% own that.
Yeah.
Your Instagram, TikTok, all of that, you don't own that. And that could just be gone in 2 seconds, like touch wood.
Wasn't Instagram down yesterday? Something happened with Instagram yesterday. I wasn't on it all day until nighttime. I went to go and post. No, I put something scheduled on.
Yeah.
And it said seen by 39 people. I was like,
yeah,
that's not true.
One of my clients was like, we've only got 5 likes, and she normally gets like loads. And I'm like, it's because Instagram is down. But so although I love Instagram and we do a lot of like DM selling, and you know, we help our clients take a lot of sales from selling in the DMs. But ultimately, you don't own those platforms. So things like building your email list is so important, and also your website and Google is really, really important because you 100% own that, and that is so, you know, invaluable, like to have that.
I think that's one reason of like how I managed to keep the business stable in the beginning was because the first thing I ever done was for all companies set up the website.
Yeah,
like that was my first point of action. Like,
yeah.
I need a domain, need to set up my website. I don't know if that's from like the modelling days. Like when I was modelling, we had to have websites. Like we had to, you know, have our portfolio on there, all of our stuff on there, our stats, all the things. So when I went to open a salon, God knows how I knew, but I was like, need to open a website.
Yeah.
And that was like the first thing we done. So our SEO off the salon is like really, really high because it was like the first thing we've done. We've had it for 15 years.
Yeah.
But I think it's like so many people don't have that.
Yeah.
And for me, I find that really baffling. And I know it's an expense. Obviously you can build them yourself. I never have.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's still the number one search engine, Google, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it is, and that's across like all like the demographics as well, like when we're looking at it all. The one thing that I would say is, so we do a lot of website builds for you know, companies, but people think, right, I've built this website, amazing, waiting for all the bookings to come in, all the money to come through. No, you still need to get traffic to that website as well. So I think it depends on budgets. Whenever I speak to a client, I'm like, right, what's your budget? What's the goal? You know, what's the focus type of thing? So websites are great and working on your SEO is great, but I always set expectations. I say minimum 6 months to really have your SEO working for you, that you're getting leads coming through, that type of thing. It could be quicker, it could be longer, but I always say you want to allow 6 months to build your SEO. And that's so many different factors. It could be that you're in a really competitive like industry or that type of thing. So in terms of like quick wins, I feel like that's why people sort of just push it to one side because they're like, I can't be bothered to wait. But we've helped clients then become number one on Google. And then it's like, once you're number one, you're sort of staying there for a long time. You have to do a bit of maintenance, but really you sort of up there. Whereas people want quick wins. It's kind of like, you know, like Amazon. Like I love same day delivery, Prime. Like I'm going for that. So we're really impatient, like this sort of like society that we're in at the moment. So people go to Google ads. Now, we used to do Google ads for clients. We don't do that now. We just focus on organic. And actually, a lot of research is out there, but you could be at the bottom of page 1 on Google, and people are more likely to click on you at the bottom than the paid ad number 1. And you spent all that money to be on number 1. And also with paid ads, once you stop paying the money, you're gone, you disappeared. Whereas if you actually spent those 6 months, you know, investing in SEO, whether you're doing it yourself or a course or, you know, an agency like myself, the return is better because then you've got yourself there and then you're long lasting on there.
Yeah. And it's not then always like everything on Instagram, Facebook and creating. Obviously, you still have to do all the content. Like we still do the content 4 times a week, post will go out on the salon. But we know most of our leads are coming through Google. Yeah, nearly all of them, all of our new clients, we know they're just trickling in all of the time because of that, rather than we actually don't get that much off Instagram.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like, again, like you don't get a lot of Instagram. I've got some clients that like their main source of traffic is Instagram and like the DMs. I have some clients that are like Facebook is their thing fully, but it's really important to make sure that you have, you know, sort of across the board as well.
For my coaching company, everything is Instagram. Every single sale will come through Instagram, and it doesn't actually make me feel safe.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm working on my SEO, like I said, it's more of a long game for that. But it's really interesting. So those that want them quick wins, that do like Shaz, I need to fill a training academy now, or I need to film a clinic now. Like, how are they going to do that in DMs?
Yeah. So Instagram, I would say. So for training academies, Instagram and Facebook. So if you're going with Facebook, I would say Facebook groups are really, really good. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, but I can't promote in Facebook groups. And it's like, no, you don't want to do any sales posts. For me personally, right, when I was building my agency and I needed clients, I made £1,500 from Facebook groups alone. And it's because I was networking. So within that. So if you're a training academy or a coach or industry expert, or even like a clinic, I would say go into Facebook groups that you know your ideal clients are going to be in there, and then start commenting on there and giving value, and then you can subtly sell in that way. So that's what I would say about Facebook. Now, Instagram DMs.
The thing that everyone's like, yeah. I know we've had this conversation as well. We've worked together on Instagram DMs and I'm like,
yeah, people find, you know, selling icky and that type of thing, which I totally get. But I would say stories, Instagram stories. You want to sell on stories every single day. So that's my biggest thing that I would say is selling on stories. And also engaging. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, but I'm too busy. I haven't got time to do that. But unless you're going to give that, like it's give and take, right? And also social media, you're meant to be social.
Yeah.
And the head of Instagram actually recently said that when people are on the platform, they're spending the majority of the time in the DMs. So the biggest thing I would say as well is you want to be posting content consistently. So using call to actions like DM the word or comment the word is really important. If you're telling people to tap the link in your bio, you're not inviting them into your DM. So you don't know who's clicking on that link in your bio. And actually studies have shown that it's like 50% less likely to convert if you do it that way.
I guess you can't see the people that are doing it, so then you can't follow up, right?
Yeah, and you can't, and people click on the link and then they might have a question, but they're not going to, people are sometimes scared. So you got to think your ideal client might be scared to message you. So you need to invite them all the time, like come and chat to me and that sort of thing. But being really direct, like DM the word and comment the word, and then invite them into the DMs to speak with you. A lot of people are like, oh, but no one DMs me, no one comments the word. Well, then you need to look at your messaging. Like, why are they not, is it to do with your course that you're providing? They don't see the value. Like, you need to think about it'll come down to your messaging if they're not DMing you. But this works really well. And yes, selling on stories. So story should be selling every single day. And that's where you also build trust on there as well.
Do you find, I know I've said this to you before, and I'm sure other clients would have said it as well, that when you do sell on socials and your reach drops?
Yeah. And that is normal. But I always say would you rather your reach drop and your bank balance go up? So, and it's so normal. So we've had Black Friday. So we've helped with so many of our clients with Black Friday. But yeah, it is normal for the reach to drop. We've had some clients where actually their reach has continued to grow in a sales phase. But when a client comes to me and I'm like, right, what's the goal? And they're like, oh, okay, well, I want to hit 10K or make 15K. I'm like, okay, amazing. But then they're like, oh, but I also want to get 10,000 followers. I'm like, no, we can't do both. It's one or the other. So is it the money or is it the growth? When you're in a growth phase on socials, then it's completely different. It's a completely different strategy. So I would say if you're focusing on selling, then that's what you need to do. Now, if you're noticing that actually, maybe you've got a small audience, so you don't actually need a big audience to make a load of money. I've got clients that they've got less than 2,000 followers and they're making 6 figures a year, like easily.
Yeah.
But it's the right sort of people in their audience. So you don't need, I'm not a believer that you need 20, 30K followers to make a lot of money. I've managed accounts where they've got 200K and their DMs are dead.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do find that it's a numbers game. And if something works, obviously the more followers, the more leads, all of that, you've got to make more money. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the ideal client. You could have 30,000 followers and only 1,000 of those are ideal clients. So then that doesn't matter.
Yeah. So one of my clients, she, I think she had 1,600 at the time and she done 75K launch.
Wow.
But that's because we built it with the ideal clients. But she's a really perfect example of trusting the process. So we had worked together for a year. And to begin with, we were talking about, certain messaging and it wasn't landing at all. Like people weren't interested. She's like, but this is what they want. And I'm like, I don't think they do. and then we switched it up and then all of a sudden that's what they wanted. And so, yeah, she built her audience on that. But again, it's not, that's only, she's now got 2,000 followers. But looking on the page, you think people see it as vanity metrics. So don't fall into that trap of vanity metrics. You can have a small audience and make a lot of money. It's just if you're good at selling in the DMs.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. She's really good at selling in the DMs.
So it is really just sitting in there, isn't it? And just spending time and doing the follow-ups. Because I think so many people just don't do that.
Yeah, they don't do that. You can automate it as well. So we've spoken about this before, obviously not on the podcast, but yeah, you can automate it. So there is a app called ManyChat that you can use to automate the follow-ups for you. But follow-up is key. And I would say follow up at least 2 to 3 times. Some clients, if they're comfortable with it, follow up 5 times.
Okay.
But if you're not getting the leads in, so I see this quite a lot. They're like, okay, well, I'm posting the content. I'm telling them to comment and DM. I'm posting on stories. I'm not really getting, much from that. What else can I do? And we have had that with clients where we're following these strategies and it's not coming in. Then outreach to people. So when it comes to outreach, you want to start warm. So I would say, who's viewing your story? Outreach to them. Look at your existing followers, even if it's 500, outreach to all of them personally. And then once you've exhausted all of that, then you can start, outreaching cold. Now, I know everyone's like, oh, cold outreach. Let's not do that. Not in a scammy way, okay? So when I'm saying outreach, I don't want you to message saying, hi, I've just found your profile. Would you be interested in our training course? Don't do that. Instant, you'll be in the spam block, that type of thing. It's genuine conversations and connections with people and building that trust that way. So start engaging oh, hey, I've noticed your profile. How long have you been in the industry for? And conversational that way works really well. So, yeah, it's a bit more graft, but that works really, really well because then you get to know people and treat it like dating as well. I say selling's like dating. So you won't straight away go in there and be like, love you.
Oh, you might.
Yeah, well, you might do, but yeah, you need to treat it like dating. So you ease your way in and that type of thing. So I always say that to clients, like, yeah, don't go straight in for the kill. Like, let's not, cock block yourself.
Yeah. There's just a whole strategy piece, isn't it? Especially when people are like, I need more clients, or I need returning clients, whatever that might be. Like this whole piece of just literally being on socials and being in your DMs is, it's a full-time job in itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it can be like just set a time aside, 1 hour a day.
Absolutely.
And make sure that that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah, and like spread it out as well. Like, habit stacking is my favorite thing. So like I will listen to a podcast, yours for example, and then I'll be like doing messages at the same time.
Yeah.
Habit and getting my steps in. So there you go. I've done 3 things. I'm listening in, personal development. I am trying to sell and that type of thing. And then I'm getting my steps in.
This is what we say when we say there's only 24 hours a day. And it's like, well, it's how clever you are with them 24 hours a day.
And then I'm walking to school as well. So there you go. That's the 4th one.
Definitely. I love that. Well, there's so much value there for this episode. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where can people find you, reach out to you?
Yeah, amazing. So Instagram would be the best way to contact me. So my Instagram handle is @sleekmarketing and you can drop me a DM. So yeah, if you need any help with anything social media, marketing related, then yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you guys that are listening can go and screenshot your phone right now, tag me and Shaz in that so we can reach this episode as far as possible to as many new listeners as possible. We would be truly grateful. So thank you so much and thanks for coming on.
Thank you.